So, now that it's been a few days, let's have that conversation about Infinity War. Because now it's been long enough. You know, everybody, we know, spoiler alerts. Spoiler alerts, if you haven't seen the movie, just don't watch this yet. The big thing that's happening now. Okay, so the big thing that's happening now is all these kids, and I knew. Listen, I'll be that person. I knew it was gonna happen, and I always say it. But when I went to see it, I mean, first thing in the morning when I would see it, the amount of kids that were in this theater was alarming to me. You know, I get it, it's a superhero movie, you know, you want to take your kids want to go, they've been seeing all the hoopla about it. But this is Deadpool all over again. In the sense of, you didn't realize or didn't do the research of what kind of movie you were going to see, so you brought your kid to a movie that basically kills every one of his heroes that he's ever loved in a matter of like 30 minutes. And, you know, we're seeing posts on Facebook now. One woman had made a comment on something, you know, oh, my grandson went and he's 6 and he, you know, it broke him. He's broken now. All of his heroes are dead. My 6-year-old grandson, he's broken. Well, the movie's PG-13. Your 6-year-old grandson shouldn't have gone. That's day one stuff, folks. No, but even you know, if you get that whole, you know, you get those people, well, my kid is different, my kid is special, my kid knows how to handle what he's seeing on the movies, he knows how to process it, and he knows what's real, and he knows the difference between what's real and not real. My kid's special. Maybe your kid is special. And you know, that may be the case, but you can't count on that. You can't count on that. You can't bank on that, because you know what? There's a better than not chance that your kid is going to react like any other normal, sane 5 or 6-year-old would when they see all of their heroes die in one foul swoop. They, you know, they're finally learning now that the comic book world isn't all, you know, fucking, you know, happy mutant groups and school for, you know, gifted youngsters. No, like, this is a very nitty-gritty, dark world. But, you know, I've read enough of the books, and you know, I know, I guess I have enough, you know, common sense or insight to the basic idea of story development and, you know, how movies usually go. Maybe it's a little bit of cynicism. But I knew this was gonna happen. Most of us knew this was gonna happen. Did it make it any less entertaining of a production? No, you know, but for me, like, you know, when Thanos snapped his fingers, it was more round and round and round she goes. Where she stops, no one knows. And it was just okay, who's gonna die now? You know, who's the 50%? You know, and yeah, some of those deaths, even for me as an adult, you know, being invested emotionally in these characters for many years, it was tough. It was tough. Specifically the Spider-Man death. That one, you know, that one really got me. You know, because it all kind of goes back, and that's where, you know, this whole thing, like, Tony, poor Tony. Tony's always gonna suffer, man. Tony's always gonna suffer, and he's gonna have to live through all of this shit. But, you know, it's his fault this kid is involved. And poor Aunt May, you know, poor Aunt May is just sitting home, still waiting for little old Peter to get off the bus after school. I think it was clear that, you know, he, he was the most scared when this all went down. You know, he could feel it a lot greater, you know, between his spidey sense and things like that. And I have a feeling that suit being Stark Tech, I'm sure, you know, you have your healing, so like, you know, it's kind of, it almost gave me that idea, that feeling of in X-Men 2. In X-Men 2? Yeah. When Wolverine had to like march up on Phoenix as like, you know, she's sending out this psionic wave that's just like ripping his body to shreds, but as soon as his body is, you know, being ripped, he's got his regenerative, you know, he's got his healing powers. So like his body is you know, is healing itself just as it's happening. So like I kind of got that feeling from the Peter Parker death in Infinity War, like that, you know, some of his accelerated healing, and you know, we know Spidey doesn't heal like Wolverine heals, but he does have accelerated healing, as well as, you know, God knows what kind of Stark Tech was in that suit. So I think that, like, as, you know, his body's trying to disintegrate, you know, a lot of his superpowers are kind of fucking with that, and it's making it a lot worse for him. But that was a heartfelt one, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, yeah, it is Tony's fault that he was there, you know. He didn't have to go get this kid. Like, he could have just let him, you know, do his damn thing, but Tony wants to be the father figure. But you know, we all know that you know, now that the Infinity Stones are completely in play, you know, especially the Time Stone, and it's been this way since Doctor Strange. Once the Time Stone was introduced into the cinematic universe, all bets are off. That's just how it is. All bets are off, and we're just along for the ride on this one, because anything is possible. When, you know, when you have that stone alone, anything is possible. You know, you can go back and rewrite things, and now we have all the stones in play, and we know what Marvel's done with that many times over. And that's one thing where I think DC definitely has an upper hand on Marvel, is the alternate universe situation. DC's got their multiverse, and they made everything very clear, cut, and simple when it came to the multiverse. You know, very early on, Crisis on Multiple Earths. You know, the whole Infinity Crisis, you know, and you're dealing with many Earths at that point, but at the end of the day, like, they keep their universes very separate. Like, Marvel does too much with mixing things, and like, oh, we're just gonna change it up because we have Infinity Stones and we can do whatever we want. And they do, and it's cool. Like, they come up with some great stuff, but DC is always much better, in my opinion, with multiple universes. You know, they'll do. Sorry, I forgot I was cooking rice, and it started to boil over a little quick there. Yeah, no, we got to multitask. Listen, we're gonna multitask. We cook and we broadcast. Yeah, so, you know, we're getting a lot of these kids now, and I have a feeling now that Disney owns everything when it comes to the Marvel stuff, you know, these parental complaints are gonna make things a little difficult, I feel. It's definitely gonna be a situation that needs to be watched in the near future. I mean, we're still getting our rated R Deadpool. You know, and I guess technically that's still under Fox, but you know, Disney basically bought up everything they needed at this point. So we'll see how that goes. But I definitely think that going forward, you know, if you are a comic book fan, you know, you're a regular follower, you know, aficionado, if you will. You know, it is at some point, it is your duty not to spoil shit, but to give people fair warning. Like, if you're in line at the movies and you're in line for a movie that you know the 7-year-old child behind you shouldn't be seeing, you know, because of what's going to happen, turn around, just give that parent a heads up, maybe. You know, say, hey, listen, like, I've read all the books for this, and there's a lot of things that are going to be a little hard for your child to process, and they're gonna upset him quite much. But you know, the MPAA made that decision. We all know that, you know, in UK, whatever they want to call it, 12A, you know, 12U, U12, whatever. But in America, it was PG-13, plain and simple, okay? So there's no way, parental guidance or not, there's no way a 6-year-old should have been gone to see that movie. Like, when I went, I heard a lot of little kid screams, a lot of little gasps, a lot of little crying, and it's not that it ruined the movie for me. I was so fucking stoned, like, I wasn't even paying attention to anything outside, like, what was going on right in front of me like that. But, you know, I definitely noticed it to a certain extent. But yeah, and going forward, listen, going forward, it's not going to be much better. Parents, please understand this. Going forward, it is not going to get better. You know, Deadpool 2, you need to treat it just like Deadpool 1. You know, do not take your children at all. Even if you want to, you know, get it and let them watch the DVD later, no. Nobody under the age of like 14, 15 should freely watch that movie without any sort of adult guidance on what they're seeing. But you know, when the rest of when they close out this Infinity War thing and Captain Marvel, like, listen, things are gonna get a little gritty in the Marvel universe right now. You know, if we get Ghost Rider to come back into the cinematic universe, like, oh, Spirit of Vengeance, like, things could get real gritty for a minute. But yeah, please pay attention to ratings, like, and honestly, I think that maybe theaters need to start stepping in and making a little policy. Like, if a movie is PG-13, then regardless, like, you know, post it on your website, put the signs out front, like, let them know when they buy tickets, like, put disclaimers. You put enough disclaimers for other shit, put a disclaimer. This theater, this company, whatever, despite, you know, parental guidance, will not allow children under this age into a movie that is PG-13 or worse. Plain and simple. You know, because you got to really think, like, what PG-13 movies have come out that, you know, you would think, like, oh, it's PG-13. Like, you know, 13, 12, 11, it's all the same thing, and I'm going to be with the kid anyway. You know, like, we were young when we watched all that shit. It didn't matter. But our parents were always there for the most part. Like, when we were young. I mean, with me, I was young. Like, I was probably like maybe 6, 7 years old, watching like Arachnophobia with fucking John Goodman. Like, I watched it with my dad, you know, and I watched like all the Aliens movies and this, that, whatever. So like, I was privy early on to very, you know, scientific, futuristic, sci-fi violence and stuff like that. But it never really affected me like that. You know, so later on, you know, when I was like 11, 12, 13, like, I could watch, you know, whatever movies. Like, by the time I'm 13, 14, like, I'm watching R. It's nothing, like, I know what I'm handling. Yeah, I repeat shit sometimes. Who doesn't? But, you know, it's not traumatizing me. It's not, you know, like, holy shit, what did I just watch? Like, I've seen movies as an adult. Like, as a grown-ass fucking man, I've seen movies that traumatize me to a certain extent. You know, sometimes in the aspect of, you know, the level of graphic violence that they'll show. But sometimes even on, like, subject matter. You know, I was telling a couple of the kids at work today, we were talking for a minute, and we got the subject of directors somehow. And they brought up somebody as a director, and I was like, still not as bad as Vincent Gallo. And this girl's like, oh, I love Vincent Gallo. Buffalo 66 was so good. And I'm like, yeah? Did you ever see Brown Bunny? She's like, no. I was like, yeah, well, Vincent Gallo made a movie called Brown Bunny. And in that movie, as the director and star of that movie, he convinced coerced, whatever you want to call it, Chloe Sevigny, a professional Hollywood actress, to perform oral sex on him on camera and swallow his load on camera. Like, that is in the film. Like, that's the kind of person Vincent Gallo is. So, yeah, I had to break that down for her. It was a little unfortunate, you know. She was a little like, oh, I had no, like, wow, really? I'm like, yeah, welcome to the real world, kid. Thanks. Oh, so, yeah, no. Even as an adult, there's movies that have gotten me. Brown Bunny being one of them. You know, ironically, even as a young adult, the movie Kids. Everybody remembers that movie. If that movie had come out in theaters and it was rated PG-13, I think that all hell would have broken loose. Like, parents would have burned the theaters down. Also starring Chloe Sevigny, though. So maybe, you know what? Maybe Chloe Sevigny makes me uncomfortable. Maybe she just, anything she's in is just like, good. Like, it makes me awkward. It makes me, you know, cringe a little bit. Big Love, yeah. I mean, it was good. It was HBO. And I think Bill Paxton saved that for a lot of them. But it, at times, made me feel uncomfortable. You know, and I know that's on me, but the scientist in me says that there has to be at least a little bit of coincidence that, you know, that 3 of the productions that I don't like to watch and make me uncomfortable like that all star Chloe Sevigny. But something we'll have to look into. Well, you know, when we get another week or so in, maybe we'll break down Infinity Wars a little bit more. But I definitely had to get off my chest today on this whole kid situation, because now it's starting to make the rounds, and parents are complaining to theaters and hitting social media, and it's turning into you know, a little bit of a thing. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think it's going to be as big as a Deadpool situation, but definitely it's going to be a thing. And a lot of people are getting salty over spoilers through reading this stories about parents complaining and saying shit. You know, and people commenting like, everybody died, what do you expect? You know. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm gonna finish this rice and maybe get a little meat going involved, and we'll see. I got some eggs. We'll do some eggs in there. But yeah, everybody, if you haven't yet, go see Marvel Infinity Wars. And let us know what you think.